Today, I'm wrapping up our St Lucian rum deep dive by focusing on the last brand from St Lucian Distillers, and that is Admiral Rodney. We've got three rums here. We're doing a side by side. All of these rums are different age, and this would be what St Lucian Distillers class as their top rums coming up there. Although I might put now, after the last video, I might put the 1931 in there as their best rum that they do. But let's dive in. Let's find out. Hey, rum friends, welcome back to the channel. But if you are new here, then welcome. Hello, my name is Steve the Barman, and right here on this blue channel, this is my rum tasting channel. Each month, or every 6 weeks or so, we take a different country, a different island in turn, and I deep dive in, starting with the cheaper rums, more geared towards mixing and cocktails, through to the more expensive rums. Typically, no more than sort of 50 UK pounds, British pounds, 60 euros, 60 US dollars. I never really want to go to the more expensive stuff. However, today we are slightly going over that. Anyway, if that sounds like fun, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the future videos. But don't forget, I've got 5 other YouTube channels now, all with their own specific niches, different audiences, different videos appealing to different people. So go and check those links out in the description below. Right, then, quick glug of coffee. Let's dive in to Admiral Rodney. Now, again, the astute ones amongst you will have noticed the whole paid promotion thing sort of ticked, and that might have flashed up at the front of the video. Again, I want to preface this. This is no money has changed hands here, but I do have to give a big shout out to actually 3 people here. So Dave, as I said, I wasn't going to feature these rums in this. These are more expensive than what I want to do. However, this is a bottle I do own, so I was going to feature that. But then it's not right doing one Admiral Rodney without featuring the other 2, and the other 2 are quite expensive, and I know that I wouldn't drink them. So Dave Marsland has very, very kindly, again, I mentioned him in the last video, Mr. Spirit Bound Chairman's Reserve Brand Ambassador here in the UK, has very kindly sent me another dram of the Formidable. We've got the Admiral Rodney Princessa, is a little dram from the Whiskey Exchange. But then don't forget, for those of you that join me quite a lot, this is that one I thought was creme de menthe from the Master of Malt Advent calendar as well. So I've still got a little bit of that left. So that's going to be interesting comparing the creme de menthe, the Admiral Formidable, to the little dram that Dave sent to me. So let's start off and talk about the DNA of these rums. And I can get into it a little bit. I'm not going too down the rabbit hole, but as we started off this journey, we started off with Bounty. And I mentioned at the start of the journey that Bounty is a column still rums. Now, St Lucia Distillers, again, to recap, have 4 stills. 3 pot stills, 1 column still. So they have the John Doe 1, the John Doe 2, which are the pot stills. They have the Vendome pot still. And they also have the coffee column still. Now, Admiral Rodney, along with Bounty, are column still rums, but how they use that column still, I didn't really go too much into it at the Bounty. How they use that column coffee still is that, as I mentioned, with column stills, without getting too technical, column stills have different plates at different parts, and if you use plates at the top of the still, you're going to get a lighter and in some cases less flavorful rum. Now, that's not the case with that, it's very cleverly blended and different. And I'm not saying it's like completely flavorless as in vodka, but actually, if you use the plates at the bottom of the column still, you get a very different rum to what you would do if you use the plates at the top of the still. So Bounty is, as far as I know, is a blend of the different plate, not a blend of, well, it is a blend of rums as well, but I'm saying different plates from top to bottom in there. Whereas Admiral Rodney is just really using the plates at the bottom of that column still. So all that goes against all the sort of geeks that are, the know-it-alls that just really want, it's all about pot still, pot still, pot still, pot still. You can produce some phenomenal stuff, as I always say, off column stills. People get it into their heads that column still is your Puerto Rico, your Dominican Republic, your Cuba, all those lighter styles of rum. Column stills don't have to be. You know, you think Martinique, think Agricole, think Guadeloupe. They are column stills, and no one's ever accusing them of being flavourless. So you can get some phenomenal rums off column still. So don't let the whole pot versus column thing detract you. Just take the rum at face value. Then to talk more specifically about what these rums actually are and how they're different, we'll start off with the Princessa down the end there. So this is the cheaper one. I'll go through the price in a minute, but you know, well, actually, there's not that much difference between these two, the Royal Oak and the Princessa. The Princessa, I can't even say it now. Princessa, HMS. By the way, the HMS, they're all ships. They're all Navy battleships and stuff like that. So that's where the names have come from. Okay, I'm not going to dive into the history of them, but they're all named after different battleships from that sort of. So the HMS Princessa is a blend of 5 to 9 year old rums and has been aged. Is a blend again, as with all St Lucian rums, they are blends. You know, they're not specifically a 5 or a 9 year old or anything like that. You just don't know what they're, but it's all different blends. But what this is different blends of rums that have been aged in bourbon, ex-bourbon, and port cask as well. So remember the 1931 had a bit of port cask in it as well. So has the HMS Princessa. I flipping don't know why I can't say that. HMS Princessa. There we go. Now, moving up to the Royal Oak. So we've got 5 to 9 in there. The Royal Oak is now 7 to 12 years old, and it gets rid of the port. So this is just a firm blend of ex-bourbon casks. But as I say, 7 to 12 versus 5 to 9 year old. And then from there, we go up to the top one in their range, the Formidable or HMS Formidable, or however you want to say it in there. So we go from 7 to 12 in there to 9 to 12. And again, these two are the same in that they are both ex-bourbon. The only port in the whole mix is the HMS Princessa. So before we dive in for a quick tasting, quick side-by-side, I do need to give you the prices, as I always do. And actually, do you know what? I say these wouldn't feature. There's a reason that this is behind the bar, is because it does, or it did when I bought it. It wasn't just a shade over the £50. And it's, yes, the prices have gone up, but it's not massively. Both of these are around about the 55, 56 mark. So we'll go through them. And actually, for some reason, the Royal Oak is actually cheaper than the Princessa at the moment. I'm not sure whether that's because Master and Malt haven't got round to putting the price up on this yet. I don't know, but I would expect this to actually go up a couple of quid. Anyway, but this was done probably 4 weeks ago now, the price is there. So we'll start off with the Princessa, £57.80 here in the UK, so rounded up, £58, 73.5 US dollars, 66.5 euros, 108 Australian dollars, and 97 Canadian dollars for the Princessa. The Royal Oak comes in at just a little bit cheaper, £1-ish cheaper, for 56.50, so rounding up for that, which is rounding up 72 US dollars, rounded up 65 euros, 105.5 Australian dollars, and then 95 Canadian dollars. But then we get up to the Formidable, HMS Formidable, and then we go up quite a healthy jump, so about £20 and nearly 30 US dollars. So we're up at 78.5 British pounds, 99.5-ish US dollars, 90 euros, 146.5 Australian dollars, and then 132 Canadian dollars. So there is a healthy jump between that and that, but then 5 to 9 year old in there compared to, what do we say, 9 to 12 year old here. So first up, we're going for the HMS Princessa, and on the nose, I'm not getting a huge amount, to be honest. It's very light, very, very light. There is, I haven't quite identified it yet. There's a smell that will come to me in a minute, hopefully. But there is a, stereotypical sort of sultana, not honey, nothing remotely close to the 1931 that I had before it. But then again, column still versus probably a healthy influence of pot and a healthy influence of cane juice as well. You wouldn't expect the two to be similar in that sort of style, even though they come out of the same distillery. And maybe picking up a touch of chocolate, a touch of dark chocolate more anything, touch of sultanas. I wouldn't really get the honey vibe. There is this aroma that I can't quite pick out. It's not a fruity aroma. It's not a nutty aroma. It's like, I don't know, it's a sherbety maybe? It's a weird one. I don't know. I'm probably making that up now. Now, in the taste, that's interesting. I'm not convinced. Oh, that's got chocolate. So the first couple of seconds, I got the port, or this red, juicy fruit vibe. Probably, because I know it's port cask in there, I'm associating with port. if I'd tasted it, I would have gone like red fruit, red berry kind of vibe going off there. That quickly disappeared, and the chocolate came out, the vanilla came out, the sultana came out. There's a little bit of funk maybe on that. Not heavy, not Jamaica or anything like that. Vanilla's now coming out. Oh, coffee vanilla. Ooh, that's interesting. The longer that goes on, I would say it's a lot thinner than the 1931. And at face value, at first sipping, I massively prefer the 1931. But then you are talking £40 more, $50 more a bottle. And then second sipping, actually, I would actually say it's quite complex. Yes, I'm still saying it's thinner. I've got this fruity, spicy, vanilla. It's almost like, actually, now that that's there, then chocolate is there. It's almost like a very well done, a very unsynthetically flavoured spiced rum in that sense. And I don't mean that in a harsh way at all. That level of the spice, the fruit, the sort of red fruits that come off there, the chocolate. I've tasted spiced rums that are similar to that, but just a hell of a lot sweeter. A hell of a lot sweeter. This is like a dialed back. I could actually get used to that. That's not too bad. The only thing that's slightly putting me off of that is that red fruit note to it, which I'm associating with that port cask. But for a lighter style of rum, that's actually quite delicious. Right, let's dive in for the one that, and again, I haven't revisited this now for quite a few months because I knew St Lucia was coming. So this is going to be the first tasting of this in 3-4 months. The HMS Royal Oak. Now, on a side-by-side aroma comparison, actually, there's not, the only dissimilar thing is I don't get that sort of red fruit note off there, that port. But everything else is light. You know, I get that sort of chocolatey spice. I get that a little bit of sort of vanilla off there as well. A little bit of toasty oak. As you would imagine, it's a little bit older. You know, you've got slightly heavier aged rums in here. But it's a very, very, very similar profile off the nose there. I don't think I'm picking anything else different off that. Right, let's have a little taste. Now, the Royal Oak is much more up my street. And that's why I've had a bottle behind the bar here and not the Princessa. I don't get that sort of red fruit. I don't get that port, which I don't inherently like rum aged in wine casks anyway. So, you know, sherry and Madeira and all that, I'm not a huge fan of that. So for me, but the notes I get off this is like a luxurious chocolate. It's got more body to it. Still not too longer aged for me. I don't get any prickly spice off there. It's a lovely body, chocolatey body, lovely sort of chocolatey, honeyed. It's almost like this. It's a dark, the fruit, the spice. So I think the port finish of that really does bring that spiced rum vibe to it. And I don't think Kibumba or anything like that. I mean like a proper spiced rum, but without the sugar and without the fake flavorings that's going on. It's just all those different flavors. Whereas this is much more me. Vanilla, chocolate, stone fruits, sultanas, honey. There's a little bit of honey in there as well. And then the second tasting, the only bits I can add in there is caramel and a little bit of spice. Again, look, actually now that I've had that 1931, I do still prefer the 1931 over this, but I understand why I've got this behind the bar, because this is delicious. And actually, right, here's the thing for me, this is the closest one I've got to any of those Barbados rums that I tried, where are we, November now. This is the closest rum for me that competes in that Barbados category there. I think all the other rums that I've tried so far from St Lucian distillers have totally surpassed Barbados in flavour, in depth of character, in journeys that go on in your palate. This is the closest one, and in that sense, I kind of mean straight down the line, what you expect to get off rum. You know, all those vibes, that vanilla, that chocolate, that sultana, that sort of mixed dried fruit, all those vibes is what I get off this. But it's that sort of chocolatey caramel kind of finish to it. This is absolutely delicious. And again, I know why I've got it. I like it. It's a rum. It's actually my ever-present rum because I've talked about this one. You know, this, as far as I understand it, and I'm pretty sure I'm right in this, this was the OG Admiral Rodney, you know, before they went down the other two routes as well. I think this was the OG. So this is the one that came out first off, and it was one of my first, in that first batch of rums that I had back in like the mid sort of 2000s or so. So yeah, I understand it. I've not lost the love for it at all. I do really, really like this. Now, here's the big question. Is Dave's HMS Formidable, Admiral Rodney Formidable, is Dave's any different to the one that I got through Master of Malt? And do I still get the creme de menthe vibes, the mint vibes off the Master of Malt dram? This is going to be interesting. So this is the one Dave sent me. This is the Master of Malt one. Let's dive in. Nope, I still get mojito. That is bonkers. I actually get a lighter mojito vibe off the recent one that Dave's got me compared to the one that I've had now for probably about a month from, oh no, probably about 2.5, 3 weeks now from Master of Malt. But definitely there is slightly different notes to them, but they're both is mojitos. Absolutely sort of, not creme de menthe, but that mojito vibe going on. And I think for me, that does kind of not overshadow, but overpower everything else. Yes, I get the sort of vanilla. I get the sort of mixed fruit. I get the like oak vanilla oak kind of vibes going off there, caramel. But it's that menthe. It's like smelling it there right beside your nose. It's like smelling a mojito that's over here. It's kind of really subtly mint, but it is mint. I cannot help but smell mint. In Dave's version, much more than the Master of Malt version, that was a mint bomb when I first had it. But I can only surmise that when it's pent up in there, even in a little dram like that, when it's pent up in there, first off, without the air to move, I can only assume that menthol, that mint, starts to come out. And then once it's got a little bit of room to breathe in the bottle and a little bit of air's got to it, even though it's obviously been decanted into those bottles, I can only assume that's when the mint sort of disappears, because I've looked at loads of other people's tasting notes and it's really split down the middle. Loads of people get mint and loads of people don't get mint, but I defy anyone to smell these and not get mint. Right, let's dive in. And do you know what, on the taste, actually, I can put that one away because they are identical on the taste, thank God. I would say, right, this is now where we start to get a bit heavier, obviously because of the extra years barrel aging. This is 9 to 12 as opposed to 7 to 12. So we've got a minimum of an extra 2 years in there. And again, you know, it could have a higher blend in there. It could have more 12-year-old in there than what that has. You know, don't just see it as a straightforward, where 2 years older. You can't, because it's all about blends. It's a very different concept. But for this, I've got this caramel. It's got this robustness. It's actually, do you know what? Now that I remember drinking that in the advent calendar, and I remember just getting the mint. And actually, now that mint's gone, if you like, I get it on the aroma. I don't get it on the taste. I'm actually torn now which one I prefer out of that. I'm definitely discounting the Princessa. For me, I'm definitely at the Royal Oak at the moment. But the Formidable, oh, it's interesting. I really like the Formidable. Really like it. It's verging on being a little bit close to being too heavily aged for me, too chewy, but it's not there. It's nowhere near like, and it's probably the wrong thing to compare it to, but it's nowhere near like, for me, the Dawley's 12 or the Dawley's 14 or the Eldorado 12 or the Eldorado 15. It's not even remotely close to being there. But it's still got a lot more power to it. I think, because I'm starting to get in more burnt toffee notes off that, I think I would personally still stick to the Royal Oak. I mean, it's been my OG. It's been there. I've got a lot of love for it. I think this is, for me, the Royal Oak is the closest rum I have to going, I don't know how to explain this, but to being a longer, authentically aged rum without too many different nuances for me, without like Jamaican going that the banana and all that sort of tropical fruit, and Barbados. You know, for me, if someone was to give me a Barbados rum, that traditional style of Barbados rum, even though it's St Lucia, this is the rum that I would want. If that makes any sense, traditional aged rum, this is the one that I potentially have, and it's why it's been behind there, because Havana Selection de Maestros, you know, it was a very different concept. Even though it's column stills, it's a very different concept to what this is. Yeah, I like the Formidable I do, but I just go back to the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak is, for me, definitely 100%, and it's that little extra nudge of chocolate that kind of seals the deal for me. So that has been the St Lucian deep dive. There is one more video to come, and it's because you lot have asked for it. Comment after comment after comment after DM after DM after DM. And that's what that video is right up there.